Sustainability is such an important topic, and it's a business imperative. Most of the businesses globally still believe sustainability is an important roadmap for their development and as well as for their business expansion. But however, though the noise is quite out there, regulations are getting tighter. More and more people are talking about it. However, you see a very less movement and less activity being taken. Execution levels are not up to its height. With that note, Anna, I would like to give us, our audience, a little bit of yourself about Tulia, which has been involved in many sustainability conversations and initiations. And you being a sustainability practitioner for many years, I would like to hear a little bit of you, and then we can get into our conversation.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to share some of my views on the sustainable business development. So my name is Anna Haakansson. I grew up in Sweden, in a small town, actually where IKEA is from. So we spend a lot of time outdoor. There was a saying in Sweden when I was a child, that I heard all the time. It was, there is no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. So we were basically out playing in minus 20 degrees, rain, whatever, and we were setting up our little stores in the forest behind the house where we were selling our acorns or precious stones that we found. So there was a deep connection with the nature that now living in Singapore, that I feel that it's so important for me also to stay grounded and calm. So that has been a very safe and a fortunate childhood I had. But I was curious about the world, so I decided to go out. So I was studying economics first at university in Sweden and then in Vienna. And then I got a job opportunity in Barcelona in Spain. So I was working as quality manager for many years, improving processes, operational excellence. So that is where my interest is. And that is also how I look at sustainability, because you improve, you can improve the operations, but also, of course, for the sake of the negative impact that the business activities have on the environment and the society. So I have been always very interested in KPIs, trying to improve processes. So I did that for many years in a big industrial company, and then I moved on to work as a COO for another company selling Swedish design furnitures. And 2019, I decided to repurpose my career. So I went back to the university in Sweden to study sustainable business development, to understand that. And I continued then after that to understand the reporting frameworks and standards, like the Global Reporting Initiative, SASB, FSA, TCFD, which is the Task Force for Climate related disclosures, and all these frameworks that actually is what the name says, right? The framework for how to structure a sustainability strategy. And in that process, I met my co-founder, Radhika Chavan, and we decided to set up a company called Tulia. And we are focusing on sustainability management accounting. And we are helping companies to develop and integrate sustainability strategies that are aligned with these reporting frameworks and standards. And that now also is becoming mandatory in many jurisdictions. So yeah, that is our ambition, is to really support companies on that journey, because there are many front runners. The big, large multinational companies, they have been working with sustainability for many years. They have long-term pledges. They have dedicated a lot of resources to sustainable development and their reporting. But they also, the large majority, sometimes we wrongly called, say, SMEs, right? But in the end, it's also quite a lot of number of large companies that are at this beginning of the sustainability journey, and how they should think around sustainability, how they can get started, And I think right now we are a little bit overwhelmed with everything that has happened the last 3 to 5 years.
It is. It is. Thank you very much, Anna, for that introduction. Most businesses around the world believe that sustainability is a, but it's like a compliance and ticking the box kind of an activity rather than seeing its opportunity and benefits it can give. You can't achieve sustainability without creating better efficiencies, create better experience to internal and external customers. What I meant by your business becomes much more less friction, and whereas the customers will have an experience of your delivery being efficient and so on. It has a direct impact towards your bottom line, and whereas because you give a better experience to your customers, they're going to be your uh, customer retention is going to be much better, and at the same time they will bring new customers to you. Most businesses sometimes, not that they don't see that, not that they don't understand, but sometimes the obvious things are not very obvious to a lot of people because sustainability is still articulated as an audit requirement rather than its own opportunity. That's what we are trying to do, to create people to understand more and more how we can really impact people, how we can really give them better opportunity. That leads me into my first question to you, Anna. How how has sustainability developed in the last 3 to 4 years? You have been here for some time, so I'd like to hear your point of view. As Tulia has been engaging in the last couple of years, what is your experience in that matter?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as I said, multinational companies, they have worked with their sustainability strategies and their reporting for many years. So they are already very advanced. But in general, I see that we are going from a voluntary to mandatory sustainability reporting. And I think right now there is about 30 jurisdictions worldwide that have or are in the process to adapt the IFRS new sustainability standards, the S1, with its general disclosures for sustainability information, and S2, which is more climate focused. So this means that every jurisdiction will eventually pick up and make it mandatory first for listed companies and large private companies to report according to these standards. So that is what has moved quickly the last 3 to 5 years, and that is actually coming from investors' need of more granular sustainability information. They need to be able to assess the risks, the sustainability related risks in a company, and they cannot only rely on rating agencies because it hasn't been very transparent. So that from that need, I think this IFRS came up with these new standards to meet that demand on the market. So that is has evolved the last 3 to 5 years, and then in parallel in Europe, for example, has been the front runner also for mandatory reporting, and they have developed the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. So they are a little bit different focus. So the IFRS, they are focusing more on sustainability information that is targeting investors, and ESRS, the standards in Europe, they are focusing on a broader stakeholder groups. So that is called sometimes, probably many people have heard about it, double materiality. It's when you're looking more at how your business impacts the environment and the society. Whereas IFRS, they are looking more from a risk perspective, how environmental and social aspect impact the result of the company. So these are two different views that are emerging, I think. There is a lot to say about that. But generally, I think we are going in the direction of accounting for accountability with a shared set of principles, methodology, KPIs, because of all the greenwashing that has happened in the past. Now it's becoming more unified with a shared language. And this will also trickle down in the supply chain, because these companies that are subject to mandatory reporting, they will have to assess the risk in their supply chain as well. And they have to come up with plans and actions and targets to address these problems that they have in the supply chain. So I think that is the last 3 to 5 years summary, what I see has happened very quickly, actually.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Mm, I think it's like a chicken and egg situation where, if you really to look at how an environment can impact your business and how your business can impact an environment. But most of the time that people will be more concerned about is that environment is going to impact. That's a way that most of the traditional risk assessment is being looked at. How can we prevent even our education structure, especially on specialized areas of risk elements, how you evaluate? Everybody is more focused on how the external factors can affect your business growth and continuity of your business. That's what everyone looked at. But they won't look at how they will impact as a collective, because their business is not considered as a major contributor. Even if it is so, they think we are contributing X amount, but if you put all the businesses together, that's where the impact is coming. So I think the behavior has to come in two different directions. They have to look at if everyone behaves in such a way, it can mitigate the external risk factors as far as environmental impacts are concerned. I mean, we can talk about many impacts which businesses have been facing beginning of this year, even entire last year. But that's something which we'll keep it on another day. So that also leads me to asking, what is sustainability momentum right now? And I think I spoke a little bit of that in the beginning, that there is a lot of hype. The regulations are getting tighter. 26th of February, European Union restructured their sustainability frameworks. What do you see? But whenever I speak to, or even if you look at a corporate level, when you're discussing it, it is still not the biggest priority, because the structure and the incentives and recognitions are still driven by creating better shareholder value, creating better profitability, etc., etc. But sustainability becomes in the latter of that discussion. They are doing it because they have to, not because they want to. How do you see the momentum at this stage?
Well, right now, I must say the last month have been a bit disappointing for everyone who is in sustainability. And I think it's because of the geopolitical uncertainty now. Like US decided to withdraw from the Paris Agreement, and under the Trump administration, a lot of other decisions have been made that are taking us back in the sustainable development, which is very sad to see. Also in Europe, they had a very ambitious sustainability agenda for the mandatory reporting that and the regulation that they are also pulling back on right now, because they were afraid of not being competitive as a region. So they are reviewing it right now to simplify it and to avoid administrative burden. So that will take some time also for them to agree on what the final version will look like. Here in Singapore, where I'm located, I think there are a lot of good incentives from the government, a lot of good programs for companies that want to transition to a more sustainable business strategy. And they stay committed to the Paris Agreement. But generally, I think we just have to see, or as I think about it, we are on the transition to something, to a new normal, because it's quite evident that the way that we have done business today, from the industrialization to the globalization and the increased need of limited resources and the increasing population, we cannot continue like that. You don't have to be a scientist to understand that, right? So I think what we see now is this political backlash is probably just like normal reaction towards or on the path to acceptance. And we see resistance, we see a lot of concern, we see anger, barging, even denial that climate change is even happening, and all these kind of things, right? So I I think it's quite natural. Before, it was maybe something that was more marketing from sustainability. There were long-term pledges. They were far away in the future. Now it's becoming compliance, and the targets are closer in time. So what happens in large corporations is that they are taking it in-house, they are reviewing their data, their KPIs, and they want to make sure that they have their things in order. And I think that there's not so much talk and not so much hype about sustainability anymore. It's going towards compliance and accounting, which is probably a good thing in the end. I believe in accounting for accountability, and that you need to have this shared language with KPIs that everyone can understand, and not this long, fluffy sustainability report that are very difficult to find data, right? So I think it's going in the right direction. What is happening then for companies in the supply chain, they start to receive more, and that has increased also the last year, maybe, depending on the industry, I must say. But they also receive more requests in the procurement process to provide more detailed information about their sustainability strategy coming from their customers. So that is, it's trickling down to them as well. But right now, as you mentioned, it's a very reactive approach. It's a ticking a box mentality in many companies. Oh, we have to do it. It seems impossible to do it. Sometimes there is a strong focus on carbon accounting only in isolation, without having the full understanding of why and what this needs to happen. So I think this is just the last month has been, it's very uncertain what large companies will expect, what the legislation will expect in many regions. So that uncertainty is not good for sustainable business development.
Um, you have been hearing this quite a lot in terms of misalignments, perhaps confusion. Even when you speak to businesses, business owners, C-suites in the sustainability space who is relevant to, they're confused how they really need to align and what are the things it's important and so on and so forth. I think it's a beginning of most of the things. If you really think about it, it's a beginning of that uncertainty. But one of the things which I always tell that regardless of whether you want to report it or not, regardless of any Western leadership believe that sustainability is not important, there's much more bigger important things to concern about the planet or the environment for that matter. It's always is a perspective. Is rather than a perspective, it's a perception of people. But perspectives are always backed with facts. So when you look at amount of greenhouse gases which has been produced on an annual basis, um, due to high consumption, amount of waste which get into the planet in terms of how recycling and so on and so forth. All these things are getting somewhat accumulated somewhere, which people may not see, but it's a fact which you can't ignore it. Um, the amount of plastics which is basically being accumulated in the ocean bed, it's humongous. It's larger than some of the countries. And the amount of plastics, microplastics that you and I consume on a daily basis, I think this is something which you mentioned to me when we met sometime last week, that you mentioned about, like, we consume at least one credit card size of plastics, microplastics every month or every year. I'm not too sure whether it was a
Every
month or a year. You
week.
can clarify that.
Every week.
Every week. So that's
Yeah.
more dramatic than I believed. So these are things which you can't ignore. These are the things which is they are hardcore facts, and how it's going to affect human health. I mean, the air quality. You can think about the air quality is very bad. You can see that with certain smart devices, IoTs detecting and giving you that air quality is very bad as the day proceeds. So these are the things you can't ignore. And people are getting into much more difficult health issues as it progress. So the question is that, are we going to react when things are really bad? I think that's a human nature. They will wait until the last minute, majority, and proactive behaviors are very. It's a rare commodity, in my opinion. So that's something which sustainability practitioners and sustainability voices always have to face as a reality. But I think making an impact at the best possible way we can is something which needs to be continued. That's my personal belief. I have many people say, if I speak to 10 out of 7 thing, I don't believe in this sustainability. Some may say, yeah, but it's not a priority for them. That's always the case. You take about anything else, even health is the same, right? A lot of people know being healthy is good. It's important, but no one makes an effort to do that because it's an effort. So similarly, and I can remember in terms of how beliefs that certain people have about sustainability, I can correlate to something like in the 1950s and 60s, people believe smoking is a healthy affair. It reduces your stress. People are being promoted to smoke. Even women who are heavily pregnant used to smoke a lot because it calms the nerves and it's good for the baby. These are misconception and misbeliefs. There was no evidence to back it up. You remember this stuff, right? And people are talking about in the past. But now it's a different perspective because they have enough evidence to show dramatic health related impacts. But still, um, it's a fact. So sustainability is also can be something that into the future when things are really bad, then people might change and move towards it. And I have another question for you. In terms of, you spoke about sustainability frameworks have been changed in the European Union is concerned. Now, in terms of sustainability framework, standards, guidance, the supply chain development in sustainability strategy and why they are important. And because if you think about the entire world is a logistic and it's a supply chain, everything doesn't just come to you, it doesn't fall from the sky. There is something which needs to be produced, materialized, distributed. There's so many activities happens in between. All these activity which is happening in between obviously consumes a lot of energy. Resources are being consumed to kind of get to that point. So where do you see and why it is important for for supply chain to take sustainability very serious? Do you see it's very important?
Yeah, of course I do. And I think that is what is happening now. Everyone realized that the majority of the carbon emissions and the negative impact is happening somewhere in the supply chain. So that is why the mandatory reporting now is also including scope 3 and including or putting pressure on large players, multinational players, to look into the supply chain. And if you look at many sustainability reports, when they have set the target, uh, the scope 3 is always the problem because it's not within their control directly, right? And many companies in the supply chain, they don't know where to start. They haven't started. They don't know what to focus on. So that is the issue that I think is now addressed, which is good. So when it comes to the frameworks, this
That's
that
good things.
and the mandatory reporting now, the regulations. I think even for companies that don't have to disclose sustainability information, these standards and frameworks, they actually help even all kind of companies to structure their strategy. It's not about a report. A report is just an outcome of the strategy, and that is a misunderstanding that we see many times when we talk to SMEs, for example. So it helps them to speak the same language as their customers and other players in the supply chain, and it will help them to focus the strategy, what to focus on, and what to measure. So normally, when I explain it, like sustainability KPIs, those that are defined in the standards, they are not very different from any other operational KPIs. All companies have some operational KPIs that they are measuring, right? And they want measuring because they want to act on it before it has impact on the financials. So the only difference with this sustainability KPIs is that it's already defined, like in the greenhouse gas protocol, how to measure greenhouse gases, and in the other frameworks, how to measure other ESG topics, environmental, social, and governance topics, so that the information is comparable over time and with others, and they provide trustworthy information to their stakeholders. So that is why I see the big value of these of the frameworks and standards. And they don't have to. Here I'm talking about if you're not subject to mandatory reporting, you can align with the methodology from these frameworks. They can help you to structure your strategy, but you don't have to do everything and report on everything as the multinationals have to report on. But I think here what is important for these companies is to really understand what the key stakeholders are looking for. So basically, coming back to your question about the conversation we had about the business case and the business imperative of sustainability, I think you can categorize it in three main categories. You have access to markets. If you as a company have access to more customers, more sales, or to new customers, if you have a sustainability strategy in place, that is a business motivator for you to prioritize sustainability, right? The other one is access to capital. If you can show your banks that this is how I'm performing, I need a loan, then you may be able to tap into green loans or sustainability-linked loans or grants, for that matter, to finance your sustainability strategy. So that is another business motivator for the sustainability case. And then operational savings. So even if it's not so obvious today, in some cases, there is so much you can save on changing the processes, invest in some technology to reduce the water consumption, or the waste management, as you mentioned before as well. So there is actually many things that can be done to improve the operational excellence and also reduce cost. So I think the only thing here is that it's difficult to connect the sustainability information with the financial information, which I think is something that will be improved in the future when the companies are a little bit more mature and they know how they are performing. And with the help of AI, you can probably create closed. I'm not an expert on AI, but I can imagine that you can bring in the sources that you need from sustainability information, and connect that with the financial information to be able to draw conclusions, how you are performing, and set targets and realistic targets, and so on and so forth. But it's actually, I read a while back, there was a study on sustainable value creation by Robert G. Eckles.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, he's a professor at Harvard, and I think maybe now he's at Said Business School at Oxford, actually. And they had interviewed 200 something, 230, I think, senior leaders in different industries about the sustainable value creation and their thoughts around that. So there was one section that was, they called it the implementation gap. So they asked these leaders how important sustainability is for their commercial success. And over 90%, they answered that it's critical. It's very important. Sustainability is very important for the commercial success. But then when they asked about the perceived value of sustainability, the top ranking ones were still reputation, brand value, employee retention, I think was one of them, and stakeholder engagement. So those are very intangible factors, right? And the lowest ranking ones, they were actually those that were more connected to operational values, like efficiency, ensuring a stable supply chain, increasing sales, and attracting investments, and so on. So those were ranking lower, and I found it very interesting. And my conclusion of that is that there must be a gap or a missing link between the sustainability information that you have in the company and the financial information, because they are not able to estimate how much it is actually worth in money, right? So I think if that improves, the business case will also be much more evident for many companies. And for companies that are in the middle of the supply chain, I think they have to, reach out and check with their customers and other stakeholders what they will need. What should they focus on, not just now, but in the coming 3 to 5 years. And with that, they will have a better understanding of what to focus on.
Yeah, I remember when I was reading that article, I also come to notice that some of the value propositions, if not the value proposition, the values that they gain out of simply becoming sustainability in terms of increasing of sales, I think it's about 53 or 54% versus the other parts, which is ranking above 65, 70%.
Yeah.
It's again, perhaps it's not been, as you rightly mentioned, it's not been measured, because sometimes you need to look at in terms of your actions, in terms of your implementations, executions, we can call it, and then measured based on these changes, what improvements that you have seen. If you take sustainability, every touch point in a business, you improve smaller percentages, 1%, 0.5%. You take collectively, you have a significant improvement over a period of time. We take, say, 12 months. You have minimum of good 30% improvement in your entire business process. As a result, you're going to gain better momentum. You're going to be much more faster, and deliverables are much more faster than your competitors. But they don't really look at it in that way, because sustainability is looked as a compliance part of it. If it is being measuring, let's state a cost center, correct, because it creates efficiency. I think we spoke about this. It creates efficiency. If you don't measure what matters, you won't be able to fix it and further improve it. So it is not something which is what matters to them. So they don't measure, so they don't see its benefits. That's where it's a misalignment, and some believe it's a scam, because they never look, the perspectives are being not looked at through evidence in terms of data. And I always tell leadership is that don't just look at sustainability, just forget about the word sustainability. Look at how you can improve, how you can create better efficiency and a better experience to your customers. That's sustainability, right? Because if you look at, consumers are looking, especially the Gen Z, is for 70% of Gen Zs are very concerned about what they consume, because that's their future, which they need to protect. So they will consume products and services based on how they produce their products and services. and see if they have any evidence. And the biggest thing is that they also don't have enough evidence to trust the data which is coming out, because majority of businesses are reporting scope 1 and scope 2. As you know, for the layman perspective, the majority is if you take as you go and grow your business, scope 3 becomes 90% of your data set, which people don't talk about, and the scope 3 has the biggest impact. So
Yeah.
these are the misconceptions that people are still struggling. But if you really give that visibility to your consumers and your stakeholders and your business partners, it unlocks a new vertical of economic value to your business. And it's something which is, I'm sure some have started to see it and they are proactively making measurements. I believe that's the way it's going to work. There are always 2% is the innovators and then the early adopters. So it's moving towards that direction. And I also believe that there will be businesses will start exactly the same product and the service, but in a sustainable approach, ground up,
Sure.
and they will
Yeah.
capture much bigger market opportunities. I think that's a message I receive when you're elaborating this. My next question is that to you is that what are the business case studies that you have been seen in the last years? Maybe one or two case studies that you can see who move into sustainability in a rapid pace, and then you have seen the business is growing, they're creating better market capitalization, consumers are becoming their raving fans and remaining with them, and so on. So one or two cases, if you have, you can share
Yeah. Some of the key
as
steps.
an encouragement for people to move towards that, as an
Yeah.
encouragement for people to move towards.
No, I think some of the key successes is one is transparency, to dare to be transparent, because now we're, as we mentioned a few times, we are in a phase of compliance and that paralyzes people. So I think you have to open up as a company, look for collaborations, look for help, look for industry associations that can help you. Look what industry peers are doing. Try to be curious and be transparent what you are aiming to, what you want to do, with not looking for perfectionism in any report the first year. Just getting started. And to get started, I think the focus is also one key that we see. To focus on the materiality topics or the sustainability topics that are really key to the business success. And that's something that you can influence to start with. And also critical for your key stakeholders. So engage with those cases that are going well. They have engaged, not with a broad group of stakeholders maybe, but the top customers, industry associations, banks, if they are looking for investments, to understand what they need. And when they have that information and assess the risk that they face in the business, then they can focus on a very few sustainability topics that they measure according to or aligned with the reporting frameworks. And for the greenhouse gases, obviously the greenhouse gas protocol, but they haven't taken on too much when they start. They are doing it, very focused, very concentrated, and doing it well, and with a transparent mindset. I think that is some ingredients for success. Another one that I can also mention that we see is working very nicely, especially for medium-sized companies. Small companies are more difficult because they're 100% operational, right? And there is not much more room for looking into sustainability in a strategic way. But for medium-sized companies and above, to set up a sustainability task force, for example, so that there is not just one person driving the sustainability agenda. It has to be, first of all, approved by the top management, of course. So it is a strategic decision. And then the task force should include people from different managers from different departments, so they understand also the business case. Because in the end, then to benefit from the sustainability efforts that they are doing. Even the salespeople must be able to, to talk confidently about their sustainability strategy and be able to defend why we have chosen this and not that. And it's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to do everything. But that to create that confidence, you need ownership. You can't delegate a report to a consultant like us and say, hey, I need a sustainability report. I need to take the ownership. So even if there is not much in place to, when the first year of reporting, focus on a few things. Make sure that there is a simple process in place with clear roles and responsibilities. So this doesn't become a one-off. That it actually becomes a continuous improvement process, which many companies are familiar with from ISO, right? So even if you don't include it in ISO the first time because you are learning about all this, what sustainability is and how to deal with it, but set up a simple process. Who is taking the decision? Who is monitoring? Who is measuring? Who is managing whatever topics and metrics they have decided to go forward with? I think that is a very pragmatic approach. But the mindset there is to not to be, concerned about being criticized, but being proud of having started. I think those when you have these things in place, you have a good success story.
Definitely. The criticism is always, in a business perspective, on a personal perspective. A lot of people don't initiate things because they're scared of the communities will criticize of even good behavior. And also sustainability is still not be tagged and recognized as a good behavior or among majority. And consumers are always price driven. If they can get a product at a lower price and that's what they are concerned, they're not worried about whether this product is produced in a way, impactful way for the environment, and also producing a product at the best possible way. So there is no much incentives which is coming up. That's why I think the governments needs to incentivize. In some parts of I heard this in one town in the UK, plastic bottles, if you're going to buy a bottle of water from a supermarket, they will say the bottle of water is like £1.10, but for recycling is £2, so it will be £3.10. So people are like, okay, or do I need to buy? So these are the supportive factors, which is across the board. So if anyone is producing something which is one-time use plastics, there should be a taxation. So when that gives innovation to come in, so they can produce things which in a more sustainable way. If you have produced a bottle of water through using paper, and then there is no high tax on it, because recycling is also takes energy. Someone has to collect it, someone has to dispose it, someone has to recycle it. That also consumes energy. So how do you really look at all these things in a very cohesive way, but there is less incentives for those behaviors? That's what I
I
think
think it will change.
people.
You can integrate it in the incentive system. The more integration but this come a little bit later when the company is more mature and they know how they are performing. But if it's integrated then in the incentive systems in the company and it's integrated in the management system, then this comes more naturally. And I do think that the business case will be stronger and stronger when raw materials will become more expensive over the years, right? And right now, it's more expensive to buy recycled materials many times. But this will be shifting, and then the business case of sustainability will be more apparent, and circular business model will be more apparent to companies.
Correct. And I'm sure you will agree with me. If you take this UN 17 goals, I see every single goal is an innovation stream. There's innovation embedded into it. But businesses don't see it in that way. They see it as an obligation. But at every single step, in order for you to change, you mentioned this very well in the beginning of our conversation, it's an innovation. You can look at it and see how you can do things differently. That when you try to do things differently, you're breaking away from your conformity thinking, you're challenging the status quo, you're becoming innovative. And that innovation creates something absolutely new. Perhaps you might even create a blue ocean strategy for your business.
Yeah.
But people are still stuck in that short term financial gain and shareholder value and trying to figure it out. That short term gains is where things are holding back. But at the same time, I have to say that both of us have been based in Singapore. I see Singapore is really working hard towards sustainability. You see, there's a lot of support coming from the government, which is absolutely remarkable. It's I mean, they go up to the extent of supporting small businesses to get into early stage of sustainability, reimbursing some of that cost factors by the government. I think it's very rarely seen in the ASEAN region, particularly. But in the West, there are certain other incentives have been given, like tax reductions. But this is remarkable. I think that's a good opportunity for everyone to take on board. My last question is, Anna, in terms of how that leads into how can SMEs develop a integrated sustainability strategy despite of limited resources they have. I think that leads into the opportunity which we spoke, the support which is given by the governments and green loans to be accessed, grants to be accessed. If we can just elaborate a little bit on a local knowledge perspective, uh, in particular in Singapore, in perspective, how do you see that as an opportunity?
Yeah, as you rightly mentioned, yeah, for SMEs, I think there is so much support in terms of different grants, upskilling programs. There are grants to support up to 70% to develop a sustainability strategy. So there is, I mean, compared to other market, it's a very good opportunities to take it on. But I think also companies, they are many SMEs, they are operational, and their concern is sometimes or a lack of understanding how much will it actually be take from me in terms of time, resources to keep to not just to set up a strategy, but then to maintain it and do something useful of it. So that is something that I think needs to be, addressed, and that we hear a lot from
Educated, I
SMEs.
suppose.
Educated, and
Educated,
then
I
not
suppose.
educated, and then not stopping there. It's there is a lot of awareness building happening, but I think there is also important to take the first steps in one direction. So changing a little bit the mindset of why to why not. Challenge also to see like what can actually be the cost of inaction if I don't do anything. What are my peers doing? What support do I have out there? What could be the difference if I have a basic sustainability strategy to start with?
Yeah.
So start to see the opportunity instead of seeing only the administrative side of it, which actually doesn't have to be much since you don't have to report. It's more about capturing the data and making sense of it. So embracing that learning journey with a curiosity, I think that is something that the SMEs can do and tap into all this. At least here in Singapore, all the help that is actually out there. There is so much for free that companies can learn from and upskill their people. And then from there, when they know how they want to go ahead, take the first step. Do a simple version of a sustainability strategy that is aligned with their reporting frameworks. They do a materiality assessment, like a small study of what should I focus on? What is actually, because it has to be related to your core business. If you are doing some activities for the society that has nothing to do with your business, like it's, I think it's very common here, cleaning the beach or run a marathon or these things, plant trees. That is all very, very good. I'm not saying that, but it's not strategic.
Yeah.
It's more about, okay, these are the things that actually put my company in the transition to a more sustainable business model. So it's shifting the mindset, taking it a little bit, especially from the leadership. Take the time to get curious about it and understand more about it. What's in it for them to start with. Yeah, I think that would be my approach to it.
Definitely my approach is the same because it's a universal approach. It's not driven by an opinion, it's factual. First thing, if you want to change something, you have to change your mindset because your mindset comes with a set of beliefs that you have been building over the years. Moment you change your beliefs, your mindset will change, and mindset will become your actions, and actions becomes your result. So without changing the mindset, it's very difficult. And also create curiosity, because if you don't have curiosity, you would not know what you're really missing. And if you don't believe in it, you don't believe in it as a face value, but you ask the right set of questions, intelligent, empowering question to see, is there something to it? Rather than asking why you said, why not? Just ask that question because there's always some good answers towards it. But people are quite reluctant to do that. And also, I believe sometimes it's a fear factor. Will that challenge their status quo? Whether they have the capacity to think in that matter. Let's continue. We have been successful for the last so many years. Why do we need to change? But people don't understand change is happening regardless of whether you want to change or not. And if you don't change according to the change which is taking place, you're daily becoming obsolete, and you will come to a point you won't even realize that you have become obsolete. It's like aging.
Exactly.
Right? You think you don't see every day you're aging, but you take a picture of you 10 years ago, you know you have aged, right? A lot of things have changed. And you meet somebody after like a couple of years, they will know whether you have put on weight or whether you have looked different, or etc. etc. Similar things happens to a business. If you don't make those relevant, but that is of course nature, so you can't do anything about it. But a business can always remain relative, and you look younger as you change according to the environment of it. So that's the way I see it.
Just to
I
add
think
one thing to that.
yeah,
As a consultant, when you talk to these companies or when you have the opportunity to speak to business leaders,
yeah,
it's really important not to be judgmental, and really try to understand their motivations and their pain points. Because it's so easy, since this is my way of seeing the future, and it's so, to me it is so obvious that we have to change, to come in and preach. But that won't change anything. I cannot convince anyone. If they are not ready, they are not ready, you know.
correct.
So you can just try to, with this, put a little bit of pressure to challenge their maybe outdated worldview and create the curiosity. But then sometimes I'm like, okay, if it's a motivating, if it can motivate someone, if I ask a leader, if I ask, okay, next company, if you want to go to become the CEO of another company, and they ask you what you did in your previous company for sustainability, and they won't hire you if you haven't done anything. If that is a motivation for someone, let's start from there. You know, it's a very egocentric argument, but at least I see it as a learning journey anyway. So if you can just help people to pick up at some point, whatever that may be, the conversation is started, right?
And um, I never thought about it in that way, but that's something which I learned just now. Brilliant stuff. The reason is that what's the motivation they have? If they don't have the motivation, how much you try to convince, because the motivation comes with the mindset again, there's an interconnection to it. How much you try to say them, I don't I also don't waste much time trying to convince people, because that's a waste of energy. They're anyway going to, whatever facts that you bring, they're going to reject it because they don't believe it. But then you ask certain questions, you realize it that, yeah, these are the different motivation, but they have a motivation. That's what we need to pick it out and then drive that motivation into a sustainability outcome. I think you're doing that very well. That's a success that we can help them to achieve. And now my last question: how do you see sustainability in the next 3 to 5 years, or maybe say 5 years
That's hard
down the
one.
line?
Yeah, I think there is a optimistic and not so optimistic answer. Maybe we have seen a rapid development now in the last 3 to 5 years, as I explained it before. If I look at
Yeah.
maybe 5 to 10 years, I hope I say that sustainability will not be a topic anymore. I hope that it will be something that is it's a norm, it's integrated component in the overall business strategy, and it's not treated as a topic in isolation anymore. And that what I mentioned before, that it's integrated in incentive systems and in management systems. I also think that there will be a better understanding of the business case thanks to AI and other solutions, technical solutions to connect what has been disconnected now, the non-financial sustainability information, which is becoming more accounting and more metrics based with the financial information. And then it will be make much more sense and to companies, and it will be more more normalized. So more normalized, more transparent. I think I'm sitting here and hoping, but 5 to 10 years it should be realistic. So that is not a sustainability is a thing anymore. And also in the supply chains, for example, because now what is happening, since it's now multinational companies or listed companies, they are pushing their suppliers. I think we will see also, we already see now a reaction to that. So obviously, a small player or medium-sized player in the supply chain, they cannot respond to all kinds of requests coming in from companies for sustainability. So there are some initiatives in Europe. There is one called the SME, which is trying to limit the amount of sustainability information that can be expected from a company who is reporting voluntarily. And I think there is also one in China, what's it called, the Drive Sustainability or something like that, if I'm not wrong, that they're also trying to work within an industry to collaborate and enhance the sustainability performance of their common suppliers and things like that. I think there is also in Malaysia, there is also some similar initiatives to make sure that it's not too much burden for companies in the supply chain. So I think that will also be better sorted in a few years, hopefully. But that is, we stay with that positive outlook, where I think we will be in 5 to 10 years.
I think the positive outlook, regardless, I'm very positive. You're very positive, not because it's something which we trying to influence. I believe it's going to be a reality more and more as we proceed. The climate impacts are going to be more and more, so there will be pressure coming in order to make changes. What I'm going to believe is that there will be a larger group of consumers will rally around businesses who are focused on sustainability. That change I'm anticipating, and I believe it's going to happen. All the businesses who are reluctant to change may have consequences financially because they will not have their usual customers engaging. They will eradicate or either move away. Now, that's behavior is something which is going to be evident. Anyone who is really wants to move into sustainability, and I think you spoke very well and you shared some really good knowledge. My summary and my synopsis of it is that take small actions and be consistent. You don't have to look at sustainability as a burden to yourself. Don't think about it as a complicated affair, but think as a opportunity to create better value for your business. So take small steps and measure those small steps and report that small achievement that you have, and communicate it to your consumers, your customers, and your stakeholders to build trust. That's what I learned from you, Anna, today. I think that's an amazing level of knowledge and also very simple execution. No one is going to get overwhelmed by the methodology that you explain. And thank you very much, Anna, for your time sharing that information with us. It's such a overwhelming, rather informative conversation. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.